The airlift begins for some of the Kosovo refugees. Australia offers shelter after Canberra's change of heart, and the Aussies crack the whip in the fourth test.
From National 9 News, this is Nightline with Mark Ferguson.
Good evening. NATO has tonight launched another series of airstrikes against Yugoslavia, targeting fuel and ammunition dumps as the campaign continues to cripple the Serb military assault in Kosovo. But matching the escalation in the bombing, the flight of refugees has also surged again. It's estimated more than 40,000 have fled over neighbouring borders in the past 24 hours. For some of the ethnic Albanians, there was also a mixture of relief and further trauma as they faced an international airlift to new countries. Hugh Rimerton has the first of our reports.
Forced first from their homes, the exiled are being displaced once more.
Paul Davis reporting for Nightline.
After the break, new treatment for arthritis and facing trial at last, the Libyans suspected of the Lockerbie bombing. An elderly woman has emerged virtually unharmed after her car plunged 70 metres over a cliff on the Mornington Peninsula. The car came to rest on a rocky outcrop. Emergency crews had to cut open the roof before winching the woman to safety. Other drivers say the 74-year-old lost control in gravel on the side of the road. She suffered shock and a cut finger. A West Australian family has survived a frightening ordeal after their cruiser hit a reef off Fremantle. 2 adults and 4 children left clinging to rocks in the dark. Arthur and Rosalind Jones, their children and a friend were saved by safety gear and a quick SOS, which brought a quick response from water police. Mrs Jones suffered the only injury, a broken hand and arm. One man has died and another is in hospital after a double stabbing near Canberra city centre. A man in his early 20s suffered a fatal stab wound to the chest. The other man, a 21-year-old, has injuries to his lower back. Police believe both men are from Sydney and say the stabbings may have been sparked by gang rivalries. A Sydney taxi driver charged with the murder of a passenger in 1996 has told a jury he didn't mean to run over the man. Police allege 39-year-old Saeed Malik deliberately ran down Carl Hipwell, who, with 3 mates, had fled without paying a $25 fare. Malik claims he was assaulted by one of the men while the others kicked and banged on the cab. He claims he then drove off, dizzy from the attack, before turning back because he didn't know his way, hitting Hipwell. Malik has apologised to the dead man's family. The inquest into the bombing death of a National Crime Authority detective in Adelaide will hear fresh evidence about the man once accused of the murder. 36-year-old Jeffrey Bowen died in the blast. Today, his widow expressed fears that the inquest, which started today, wouldn't lead to any arrests.
Jane Bowen has come to Adelaide to seek answers to the horrific crime which killed her husband, Jeffrey.
Cheryl Taylor for Nightline.
In a moment, the terror and hardship suffered by the refugees of Kosovo. Behind the political dealings, the military campaign and the logistics of the Kosovo refugee aid effort are the anguished faces and the stories of hardship and fear. Hugh Rimerton has been talking to some of those who've made it across the border from Kosovo into Albania.
The refugee influx to Albania actually increased today.
Still to come on Nightline, the latest finance and weather. And in sport, Australia takes command of the fourth test, league stars back from drug suspensions, and legal crossfire over a new AFL racism charge. In cricket, Australia has taken control of the fourth test against the West Indies. The Windies were bowled out this morning for 222. Australia goes into day 4 leading by 290 runs with 8 wickets in hand.
After Brian Lara's lavish innings, token gestures from the West Indies tail.
Clinton Fletcher for Nightline.
In finance news, a jump in News Corp shares pushed the Australian share market to a record close today. The All Ordinary's up 59.5 points to close for the first time above the 3,000 point mark. In Tokyo, the Nikkei was up 144 points. In London tonight, the FT 100 is 97 points up in morning trading. Gold is fetching $278.50 US an ounce. And in European trading tonight, the Australian dollar is buying 62.9 US cents, 0.58 against the euro, 76 yen and 39.6p. Now the national weather, and there's a band of cloud in the Tasman. There's more cloud associated with tropical cyclone Gwenda moving across the west. The cyclone has been upgraded to Category 5 but is expected to weaken tomorrow. There's a high in the Bight and a low in the Tasman. The forecast's an overnight storm in Darwin, fine in Brisbane, fine in Sydney, Canberra and Adelaide, becoming fine in Melbourne and Hobart, and a fine day ahead in Perth. And that's the latest news from all of us here at Nightline. Good night.